Welcome back, everyone. I hope you liked Kate's session on leaning into learning in the new EX and have noted down some of the best practices and mantras that Kate follows. Don't forget to share your key takeaways with us using the hashtag ETEXAPAC. Well, it's now time for some great minds to come together and deep dive into yet another crucial aspect of work life, which has seen its importance growing multifold. It's time to think about creating a workplace where well being and mental health are nurtured to provide better employee experience. The pandemic has revealed the importance for organizations and business leaders to ensure their workforce is healthy, engaged, and driven. But this is no small undertaking with the prevalence of remote work and digitization. To counter the complexities of today, the focus of businesses have changed from a growth mindset to an employee well-being mindset. And the companies who are on the front foot are beginning to think about organizational brain capital and ways to unleash their precious resource. Let's understand how organizations are prioritizing workforce well-being and rewriting the hybrid rules to cultivate a healthier, more inclusive, and sustainable workforce. Please join me in welcoming our esteemed panelists for this mega discussion. We have with us Chee Gay Lim, Group Chief Human Resources Officer at TDCX. Chee Gay has more than 20 years of experience in HR, manufacturing, IT, and supply chain management. He has held management and board positions at country and regional levels and managed teams in the US, Europe, and Asia. This varied experience has enabled him to reinvent and transform HR outside and during his career with a focus on group level HR transformation, employer branding, digitalization of HR processes, and operational excellence for sustainable growth. Chee Gay has been named the National HR Leader of the Year and as well as HR Professional of the Year. Welcome, Chee Gay. It's an honor to have you on board today.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much.
Up next, we have Lisa Askwith, Chief People Officer at Bonito. Lisa is a veteran people expert who brings with her over 20 years of experience across various industries from retail, consumer technology to pharmaceutical. Prior to joining Bonito, Lisa ran her own HR consultancy where she supported various companies from multi-billion-dollar ventures to startups, helping them find their new ways to tackle challenges and support growth. Welcome, Lisa. It's a pleasure to have you on board today.
Thank you so much for that lovely introduction.
Great. So next we have Joyita Poddar, Chief Human Resources Officer at Livspace. Joyita brings to the company over 2 decades of experience in human resources, having worked with companies like Sabre Corporation, eBay Inc., Star India Private Limited, Pyramid Enterprises, and Saint Gobain in the past. Her key specialization are in the field of organizational change management, M&A, culture and people strategies, leadership growth, and leadership coaching. Welcome, Joyita. It's a pleasure to have you on board with us.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
And last but not the least, our moderator speaker for this power panel is Stephen Yee, Deputy Executive Director, Corporate Learning Center and Workforce Transformation at Singapore National Employers Federation. Stephen has developed the SNEF Corporate Learning Center to meet the current and the future needs of its members and is also working very closely with the tripartite partners for their support. For the last 7 years, Stephen has also been working with Workforce Singapore, helping employers to identify hires into small and medium-sized companies and come out with a toolkit for employers to use for the first 6 months for the new hires. And also the professional conversion programs incorporating training to see how manpower can be deployed from different sectors into the growth sectors. Welcome, Stephen. It's a pleasure to have you on board with us as well.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon to all the audience, especially my 3 esteemed panel speakers. It is nice of me again back here, meeting up with the HR practitioners here, and a good afternoon to all of you. If you are in Singapore, some of you probably morning and some probably evening. Now, this employee well-being has often been a nice to have, but and not a business imperative. But times have changed since 2020, and with the onset of the pandemic, still exists in some countries. Also, the aspects of social injustice, increased automation, displaying jobs, and so on, and looming mental health crisis. I think today we are looking at the mental well-being of our employees and so on. That becomes an important and urgency things to do. And I've been time and again reminded by the HR when I meet up with the HR people that 2020 was a tough year, 21 was just as bad, and 22 is coming to be better. But again, things that have happened over the last 2 years, especially when it comes to the mental well-being and the employee well-being, are things that in every of the HR hot seats, they have to look at it in perspective. Okay, these are important. And again, what is the solution to that? I'll keep that to the last. But again, I think we would love to hear from the three speakers. Okay, the panel speakers, basically. And I would like to start the session here by looking at workplace mental well-being. How does it affect productivity at the workplace? And probably what I'll do is that I'll start out with Lisa, Love Bonito. I think you probably have something that the audience would like to hear from you. Lisa, over to you.
Thank you so much. Yes, it's a really big question and such an important one, and something also at Love Bonito we've been focusing on very, very closely, not just for the last 2 years, but also pre-pandemic. Because I think as a business, we're quite fortunate. We have a very strong guiding light. You know, what we do is female empowerment. You know, we're looking at that female ecosystem and really developing our business around that mindset. So I think compared to some of the other businesses that were hit during the pandemic, we were quite lucky in that we had a lot of flexibility up early. Our people were very much encouraged to be themselves at work. And that's quite a different feeling from many big businesses. You know, it's, if we look back, all of us have been in industries for many years, and there used to be a time where coming to work, particularly in a senior role, you had to be in a suit. There was no two ways about it. You know, you just had to be. That was the judgment call that was made. And, you know, fast forwarding to now, companies like Love Bonito, we embrace that everyone's different. We expect that, and it's very much part of our values. So going into the office is so entirely different, because people dress appropriately for work, but they express themselves as well. You know, some people wear caps, some people wear big bulky shoes, some like to wear high heels, some wear dresses, some wear jeans. It's all accepted and embraced, and it's that first step towards being an individual at work that really helps the mental health and the wellness aspect. Because if you can't be yourself for 8 to 10 hours a day, that in itself is going to drain you and damage you. So we really recognise that and encourage people to be able to bring that into the workplace. And that's our starting point. We grow everything else from there.
Let me just thanks Lisa. Joyita, you may want to just take on from here.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. I'd love to. Thank you so much, and thank you, Lisa. I think that's highly appreciative, and especially in an environment, as you explained, is an enormous amount of respect for people with disparate and different types of personalities that they bring in. I come from a business no different from a background that Lisa comes from, but we're in a startup, and a startup which I can proudly say probably went through the same degree of stress as any other company did when we stepped into the pandemic, not quite knowing how, first of all, how long our runway was, and also not quite knowing how we'll be able to keep stable the entire productivity that would generally be a reflection of the mental well-being of employees. The good news is, as an outcome from the pandemic, and I'd like to call this an endemic now, is we stepped in literally questioning our runway, and we've come out announcing ourselves a unicorn. So clearly some things happen within the company, which is noteworthy. Some of them, specifically to speak, would be our investments specifically on mental health. Now, bear in mind that our business requires two disparate sets of people, one that can purely be in office jobs. And whether they work from home or hybrid models or work from offices was truly left to their own decision. But there was another group of people, those that were customer facing. So we had to very quickly enable a way of working where we could still get across to the customer without the face time, bearing in mind all the government mandates and the security of our customers as well as of our employees. And you can imagine the amount of stress that puts on people, because at one level, you're worrying about your health. At the other level, you are equally concerned about ensuring that you're delivering to the outcomes and not letting the business sink. So mental health, I cannot even emphasize enough on how important it has been an area of investment for us in the last year and a half, just bearing in mind how the business is. And we've made lots of investments from EAPs to ensuring that we were allowing for fun online, in ensuring that we were offering health options to employees, fitness workouts online, and letting them having access to that. And most important is to ensure that when they came into work, they first felt totally safe. So ensuring a clean, hygienic work environment, and ensuring that they were accessible to just anybody in the company. They could reach out to the founders, they could reach out to the heads of the functions, anybody, if they wanted to highlight an area that they were facing with. So I think that's a very quick introduction to what we've done. Back to you.
Thank you, Joyita. Chee Gay, you and me are the same gender, so we quite have a good balance of gender here. Chee Gay, what have you done at your organization?
Sure, Stephen. I was on mute just now. I think to be the one of the last one after Lisa and Joyita, they have fixed everything, so I can just say whatever they have already said. Nothing else for me. But maybe I can add on. Maybe I can add on a few more. As you all know, the mental health wellness has already a key focus area even before the pandemic. And one of the reasons is because it's impact productivity, and of course it's also impact the organization attrition. It's not only on impacting the individual, but it has an interdependency to the team and organization. But what have changed, especially in the last 2 years, is the safety and health has become has made the wellness and also the well-being of our workforce become even more important. And that's because it's driven a lot by jobs, especially the last 2 years. Job security is one of them. I've come from TDCX. We are lucky enough because we manage a lot of clients that we can see certain industry got impacted, certain industry are growing. So we can really resonate those industry that are impacted because of pandemic. So that definitely impact the level of stress. We also know that the environment, especially working from home, as you all know that in TDCX for the last 2 years, 99% of workforce are working from home, and some of them for the first time they are working from home. That's an environment change. And there's also going to be a factors from a working relationship, skill and competency. We also notice that new joiners, as you all aware, we do have fresh graduates joining us in the workforce, and the first time they are working from home. So how do they able to have a skill and competency to even meeting to the job expectation and delivering the business? And of course, worrying also about their health because of uncertainty with the COVID-19. So all these have an impact. But what I just want to call it out that the company have do differently even before pandemic was we actually have moved and focus a lot of data insight that drive our actionable plan. One of the things that we do, and this resonates well to us because we invest a lot in the data insight, especially when we move engagement, employee experience, feedback or survey or pulse from biannual to weekly. So we will be able to know our employee whether they have information and training to do well in their job. That's very important to us. But even how we focus, we have only 88% who feel that they have been having a training and information to do their job well. But what happened to the other 12% and what are we doing about it? The other thing is that we also have an insight weekly to say that do they get recognized? And we only have 88% feel that they've been recognized. But what happened to the other 12%? We asked a question, do you have best friend at work? Even before pandemic and during the pandemic, we find that there is a decrease of 0.1 over the 2 years period. Even we have a 95%, what happened to the 5%? And these are where the risk is going to happen, that they feel that they don't have best friend at work. And we have a lot of other insight, like, do you enjoy working? Do you have a sense of accomplishment? These are all the leading indicator. And is your job fulfilling? Have you have a manageable stress level? This is one question that we ask. And the other question that we ask, do we provide support to them? That will give us that do we do enough? So a lot of time we will not know whether we do enough, but this sort of question, the leading question, help us to know whether we have done enough, or maybe we think that we have done enough, but employer doesn't think so. Especially a certain area, as I give you some statistic, there's still a room to improve, and these are the one that we have a concern, and this is the one that we come up with action plan. And we also ask a question: would somebody say something and helpful to you when you have a stress at work? So we also want to see that how's the support level and organization, and all this help us to come up with actionable item. So, and over the years, because as you all know, 99% of workforce are working from home, we have transformed our wellness and well-being platform into digital, including digital coaching. You can actually request for counselor online, okay, like doctors on call online, and that's what we offer. And we do a weekly, what we call dialogue on a lot of topics that we focus on 6 key areas. And one area is how do we manage stress and pressure? How do we leveraging our strength? Telling our employee, everyone have a strength. How do you leverage your strength? The energy of being healthy and the well-being. We talk about it, including the nutrition, including exercise. And of course, we do have a yoga and so on to support it. And this is what common and done in every organization. Positivity, including our leaders, especially in the crisis, especially in employee who approach you when they are distressed. How do you embark positivity into them? Okay, situation agility, resilience is one of the things that we build on our leaders. And of course, the last one is meaningful connection. So we also teach our leaders in terms of how to have a meaningful connection while working remotely. So these are the 6 topics that we have been focusing on over the years. Not only having like exercise, yoga, or whatever, but very, very, very focused on what we think that will improve the mind, the emotion, the action of our employee. So I just want to stop here to share with you some of the things that we actually put in place.
Okay, Chee Gay, fantastic. I think you have done a lot in your organization. You also went into the dimensions of the nature of the job, probably some job redesign, even the right competencies that needs to be acquired and so on. I truly agree that pandemic has actually opened up the dimension for us to look at things in perspective. Now, I can still remember the days where SNEF was trying to, SNEF was trying to promote flexible work arrangement. Okay, I got half of my team comes to tell me, Stephen, cannot work. At most, it's only staggered hours. I say, not much meaning by staggering hours, it's just a matter of it. So it's very lame kind of thing. And somehow pandemic has caused all of us to work from home during the lockdown period, the slightly relaxed measures and so on, and all the quotas are not having a full workforce comes back to work and so on. And it was a great change. Now I think we are faced with another problem. I think most HR here would agree, is that we have staff that wants to work from home, don't want to work from office. Okay, and there are people who want to work from anywhere. So that becomes another stress, cause some mental well-being. And I'm also glad that Chee Gay mentioned about indirectly the EAP, Employee Assistance Program, that's put in place. I think he talks about coaching and so on and so forth. So let me also hear from the other ladies, either Joyita, Lisa, on what are the programs that you do in order to make the transition, okay, in terms of not causing too much mental stress for your staff, and how do we still continue to engage our employee when they are still working from home, and how do we basically do a hybrid model, okay? So probably we can start with Lisa.
Sure. Thank you so much for that. It's a big piece of work, I think, that a lot of businesses are really struggling with adapting right now, as are our people. But it's been quite interesting with bringing people back into the office or adapting to hybrid. We have taken that flexible work arrangement quite seriously and really encouraged people to use it to their best advantage. We've also helped put in a few supporting structures because, you know, when everyone was working from home, it gets hard. People get caught up. They seem to work more because they're always on. So to try and prevent people getting stuck and having to work more because they're always on, we've done things like introduce meeting rituals and operating rituals that support our people, because we want them to feel confident that we trust them and that we're there to make sure they can get their job done in a manner that still allows them to have a work-life balance and, you know, be with their families after work, drop their kids off in the morning, whatever it is that works for them. So we've done things like put in place time zones where we can't have meetings. So our office hours, our standard office hours are 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. That's the way we work. But we actually now say, look, there can't be any meetings booked after 6 p.m. at night. And it's hard to enforce at first, but it allows our people to catch up on their days. You know, they can actually finish off rather than rush. They walk out of a meeting, they're trying to get home and have dinner with their families, and then they've got to do more work later. That's the last thing we want. We want to be able to give you a day where you can get your work done. And so by having these types of boundaries in, it helps enable our people to have that respect and feel confident. Then we've taken a little bit further on Fridays. So for Fridays, we request no meetings after 3 p.m. So people can really close their weeks off. They can also have some time, and we really encourage this for self-reflection and learning, so that they can actually dig deep and spend a bit of time on themselves and what they want out of the business without having to rush between meetings and yet again finish off a Friday and try and catch up over the weekend. So we keep that area clear as well and support our people to do that. We do have a lot of in-house learning programs. We're growing those right now. It's a key focus for us. And part of that and supporting our people moving forward, particularly returning or working in the hybrid environment, is allowing them to know that we encourage it. And that means we have to have good leadership in place to have those discussions. Because if our leadership team can't open that discussion, if they can't speak well around this and show their support, that worries our people. That puts stress on them. You know, it makes them feel less confident in what they can do. So for us also, apart from the EAPs, you know, having wellness apps, the communications, we're really looking deeper inside of our teams and making sure that our leadership team are equipped to handle this. And a big part of that for us is giving them things like core coaching skills. Because to be a fantastic leader, particularly from a distance, if you're doing it remotely, you need to be a great coach. You need to have those powerful, supportive questions that you can ask your people that helps them move forward, that helps them grow, and also shows that we respect and trust them. We don't want to micromanage them. We want them to feel involved and valued. And that's key right now for us, because managing this hybrid workflow moving forward, we know that by 2025, 75% of our workers, our people in the office and out on the retail floor, will be millennials. And we know that millennials have a really key need, and that's value. They want to feel valued at work, and they want to be able to give value back to the business. So we need a fantastic leadership team to embrace that, and then we need the programs to help them work forward.
Lisa, very good. Joyita, you want to come in to add on to that, so that I think the audience can learn more as well on some of the measures.
Absolutely. No, thank you. And I think so much said about this. My biggest takeaway stepping into the pandemic and out of it is, aren't we all creatures of habit? Like, to get us to work from home, everyone was driving energy to ensure how do we set up our employees to work from home and be productive. And now when we're talking about bringing everybody back to work, there's that whole big transition that's going in to bring people back into work, right? So we adapt to the circumstances that are at us. And I think that's the beauty of adaptability. And I think HR, particularly given that most of our backgrounds are from the HR teams, we become enablers, right? How do you make that transition easy enough so that the transition, either working from home or then coming back into the office, is easy? Now, let me just give you the context of how this would apply to Livspace. We're talking about roughly 7,000 employees here, right? So we couldn't possibly have one solution that would cut across every employee in the company. We obviously had to come out with something which was unique, but there would be certain initiatives that would cut across horizontally across all of the businesses. So what we did is we segregated businesses, which I'm sure a lot of you did, is into those that would have to work 100% from the offices. There would be another segment that would 100% be remote. And we started promoting the remote jobs as work anywhere. And that actually sits as one of our values that we use heavily in how we attract talent. And this probably applies more to our engineering tech platform teams. And then there is a third component, which is your hybrid teams, who we need to come into the office maybe once or twice in a week, and the rest of the while they could work from anywhere. Now, as we started segmenting these people, we obviously had to ensure that we were also providing the benefits to the employees, those who prefer to work from home, with every bit of a home setup. So there was a supporting them with a home setup office. Likewise, for hybrid employees, we had to make sure that we enabled that. In terms of initiatives, completely, and I think we've spoken a lot about EAP, but EAP was a given, and I'm almost beginning to think that it's becoming hygiene in a lot of the companies, given that employees are genuinely, with this entire transition of working from home, having to balance what's at work, what's in the house, keeping up, and the lines getting blurred between personal responsibilities and work responsibilities. I think the enough is not said about EAP. However, even though we launched EAP, our biggest admission in that entire launch was the fact that the signups, in terms of the number of people who actually took it up, wasn't meaningful enough. And it may have been a very small, lower single, less than a 10% digit number. And then we realized that wasn't the only way for people to be able to be heard. And what we launched internally, 30, just because people feel like they're being heard. There is instant gratification for the work that they are doing. The fact that the company has seen an upside in terms of the business performance has also translated into personal growth for each one of these people. And the most important is the fact that there is recognition that the changing circumstances of how people work is not easy. And the fact that people are heard, recognized, and that the company is bearing in mind that we don't assume anything for anybody, in itself is a big giving back to the employees to say, we hear you and we'll solve for you. Don't worry, you tell us what we can do for you. And to the extent that it is helpful to you, we'll try and extend our best hand. So there are multiple things that we've done within that, Stephen, including clearer OKRs. We've done a lot of communication platforms, etc. But that's a quick summary of our recognition.
Joyita, it's fantastic. That was my first time even hearing that you have an in-house parliament. Hopefully, it will be a world-class parliament debate. Okay, side note. I think that, but you look carefully, we are just providing a space for the employee to suggest or voice out. I think that's important, and I think that's a very interesting concept. I would love to learn from you how you going to do that. You see, sometimes by providing more options for employee to suggest and voice, you'll make the HR even more exciting. I thought that I was talking to the HR people a few years ago. Your seats are super hot. I think it's even hotter now. I'm not sure whether you can manage it, but I'm sure that I always have this impression how the HR practitioner, the HR folks going to manage it, but somehow, somewhere, and you're doing fine. Okay. And I think the good thing about it is that if you look at it, if we treat our employees well and they're part of the family members, it matters a lot. It is not a matter of moral, but it's a matter of humane. Okay. I think the empathy has to come in. And I think the more that the companies are doing this, the more that you can see that they would not want to leave your organization. I mean, there's a saying that say you train until they don't feel like leaving you. I think you create a culture that even if you think about moving to the one, your competitor or the one next door, it never even occurred to them. And everyone just have to build a very conducive environment to work. I think that's what most of the HR or the business owner wants to have it in it. But I want to ask the three HR person, how are you going to convince your management, the top management, to put in place such a practice? Do you get the support? I'm sure you get it, but how do you get that kind of a suggestion to them and have it implemented? Probably I'll hear from Chee Gay. I think you have quite a fair bit of things in it. But how do you get the support coming from the top management? They will say this doesn't look like a business imperative. Will it really help? That kind of stuff. Chee Gay, over to you.
Sure. I think this is a topics that every CFO, CPO, or head of HR are going through right now, and I think in the last 2 years. I just give you some of my experience. So when I joined TDCX 5 years ago, one of the things transformation that I have created on the policy is work from home. So when I have work from home and policy, especially in the call center, this is unknown to many leaders. So I do have rejection at that point, but I managed to get it implemented for a certain group of target group, maybe more for team leaders and above, and that is a starting point. But so what I'm trying to say that even 5 years ago, there is a rejection of work from home. But right now, if you ask, we have no choice. The last 2 years, we have to work from home because of pandemic. But that's a trigger more people to understand the requirement for us to be agile and resilient. I think that is the business learning. And for us, what is important as we drive is what I call flexibility. We know that creating a workplace where well-being and mental health are nature is key, because that will drive productivity, that will drive reduction in attrition. But we also notice that work from home has also the impact, because if you ask, is every organization have a perfect increase in the productivity? The answer is no. Okay, and that's also seen even in my organization alone. But what important as we drive is we need to acknowledge that flexibility will be the way to go. And as organization need to create that level of flexibility. And that is the key. And I always call flexibility is a journey. It is not the destination. So it's not going to be end. And I give you a few examples. I think Joyita talked about it. I'm involved in after post-COVID-19 what we call development of the policy of a job workforce that we continue to enhance. We know that today that we are not only having permanent employee, today we also have introduced gig economy, and that number will continue to grow. So that's what we know from employment. We also know that the number of consultant category will increase because people can work from anywhere, not going to be relocated in Malaysia. And you know that right now, getting a work permit is also a pain. So that's what we know. So flexibility is going to be key. When we come to that, it's easier for me to get buying in. The other thing, people talk about whether it's going to be office and hybrid. I say that it doesn't matter. What matters is that we do have the flexibility. And that's why our work arrangement today will have to cover permanent, will have to cover hybrid, when I also will have to cover office, working 100% for office. And I can give you an illustration too. 2 years ago, when I conduct a survey and I asked how many people want to work permanently at home, everyone said they want, because that's the beginning. Then I asked how many of them would want to enroll working for permanent from home and you have to give up your office. I only have a 10%. So can you see what you think that people want to choose and what thing actually come out as an outcome might be two different stories. What I have learned, one thing, is flexibility. And that is what we have now start to create. And I think Joyita talked about job nature. So we have created a criteria to make it very clear who can actually work permanently from home, including interns. So nowadays we do have interns from all over Malaysia, for example, because they doesn't need to come to KL, for example, to work. And how employee can apply and switch from work from office to work from home permanently or even to work from hybrid. And the decision-making process to enable that. And that's what we are driving right now. And also to have a solid training. If you move from office to home, what training are the resources that you need to have, including how do you set up office at home? Okay, because that's a requirement. And the working hours, we are also making flexibility to working hours. Compressed work week is only known last time to the shift employee, but we will be introducing compressed work week for the normal shift because that is a flexibility. So what I'm trying to say over here, the key takeaway, whether it's hybrid, whether it's permanent, whether it's office, we allow the flexibility. And by doing it, we will help to improve productivity because we believe flexibility will drive a better staff satisfaction, a better engagement, a better experience, and also supporting our employee well-being because each and every one are very, very diverse and they have a very diverse requirement. But when you allow a flexibility, you will pretty much able to support their requirement. At the same time, it's a win-win to achieve better productivity for the company. Okay, that's what I want to just share to your question.
Okay, fantastic. Actually, that's a question that's posed from the audience to me. So I don't
Okay.
have many questions, don't worry. Okay. I think the what Gigi has mentioned is fantastic. You look at it, is that the word flexibility is a very powerful word, and powerful words like work-life integration. I think that's even better. It leads to that thing about integrating work and life together. I think there's so much important about able to basically attract and retain your talents in the organization. Okay. Now, I think all of us somehow knows that we are all facing a tight labor market. Not only in the country, it's a global situation. Okay. And jobs are evolving. There are new jobs as well. But again, you look at the workforce that is coming in, the millennials, and you name it, all these are behaving very differently. It is no longer the usual type of workforce we are talking about. And I think Yee Gay Lim also mentioned about the types of employee that we have today, part-time, freelance, full-time, contract, you name it, all kinds of variations comes in. And you just need to embrace that and the policy must be able to be enabling such a flexibility. Now, I got only one time, I think we only have time for one last question. A very interesting that comes.
Yeah,
How much?
Stephen, I am so sorry. We are just out of time, but I would
Okay,
just want you to
okay,
wrap
great.
up this session.
That allowed me to basically get from the three panel speaker just a 1 minute closing. Probably we'll start from Joyita.
Thank you, Stephen. Thank you for the opportunity, and I'll be cognizant of the fact that we have just about 2 minutes left. I think a lot said, and I'm just glad that there is a panel of leaders who are sitting and genuinely thinking about employee well-being and employee mental health. I think it's such an important topic. And the biggest piece is how we're enabling the business to still continue to drive the same degree of results in the modes of working that suits employees and the business the best. So thank you, Stephen, for asking the question.
Okay, good. We have to make it fast. Some keywords, some takeaway.
Yep, I think the biggest piece for me is the fact that that respect for employees. I also think as an overarching umbrella, and I think Chee touched upon this immensely, is the fact that offering flexibility to people. Overall, I also think something that we've done within the Livspace environment is launching something called LiveCare, which actually encompasses all of this, including EAP and flexible working environment, offering the help to employees during these times. And I think that umbrella in itself is a big part of our own recognition that giving back to employees allows the productivity to go up twice as much, which is a reflection of our unicorn announcement.
Okay, Lisa, over to you, Lisa.
Thank you. And yeah, look, I have to agree with what's been talked about so far. There's some really robust ideas there. But also one of the key things I would like to leave behind is that people want their voices to be heard. They want to feel valued. And if we're looking at things like mental health and wellness, we need to listen really closely to understand what they need. And that's different for everyone. Everyone has different backgrounds, beliefs, experiences. So I really can't stress enough the value of things like cross-functional working teams. Allow your people to have a working team across the functions to raise their voices. You know, have a senior sponsor from the C-suite helping them get there so they can be heard and we can add value to their everyday. Because the ideas our people on the ground bring up to us are always passionate, they're driven, and they support all of the people. And we as leaders need to help embrace that process so we can then give back and support our people at all levels of the organisation. So don't forget to ask the question and be ready to hear the answers and value them.
Thank you, Lisa. Chee Gay, over to you, quick one.
Just to add on, I think Joyita and Lisa have already mentioned, I think a lot of people will say adaptability, resilience, agility, but I just want to take away that the one that will be for the workforce of the future will be flexibility and the meaningful connection.
Okay, good. Okay, I would just like to do the employers a few things. That a message to the employer is that I think employers need to look at the leadership, the way they do it, and you have to look at the hybrid work environment, even to the extent of putting the well-being as a factor in the employee total rewards package, okay? And work on the value-based, purpose-aligned drivers that at the end of the day, we incorporate the individual employee, and needless to say, the safety and the health aspects of it, of your people, is important. So I would really encourage employers to do that and work closely with the HR. The HR folks alone cannot happen. You need the strong support coming from the senior management to do that. Okay, so thank you all, and I would like to pass back the session back to the MC of the day. Thank you, all of you. Thank you, panel speakers.
Great. Thank you so much, Stephen, for moderating such an amazing session. And thank you once again, Joyita, Lisa, and Chee Gay for sharing such beautiful thoughts with us. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to move on to our next session with Shwankar Roy Chaudhary, Executive Director, Lenovo Asia Pacific. See you on the other side.